Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Janmadyasya yato niviyad itaratascha svabhigyaswara.
Janmadyasya yatam vayaritaratascha
Tene
svabhigyaswara.
Brahma Hridaya Adhikavaye Muyanti Surayaha.
Tene Brahma Hridaya Adhikavaye Muyanti
Tejo
Suraya.
Varimidam Yata Vinimaya Yatra Trisargo Misha.
Tejo Varimrida Jata Vinimayo Jatra Trisargo Misha.
Damna Svena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi.
Damna Svena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi.
O my Lord Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva.
O my Lord Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva.
O all-pervading personality of Godhead.
O all-pervading personality of Godhead.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto you.
After my respectful obeisances unto you.
I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth.
I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute
and
truth.
the primeval cause of all causes.
And the primeval cause of all causes.
Of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes.
Of the creation, sustenance, destruction, the manifested universes.
He is directly and indirectly conscious of all
He
manifestations.
is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations.
And he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him.
And he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him.
It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji.
It's he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge into the heart of Brahmaji.
The original living being.
The original living being.
By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion.
By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion.
As one is bewildered by the illusory representation.
As one is bewildered by the illusory representations.
Of water seen on fire or land seen on water.
Of water seen on fire, of land seen on water.
Only because of him do the material universes.
Only because of him do the material universes.
Temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature.
Temporarily manifested by the reaction of the three modes of
Appear
nature.
factual, although they are unreal.
Appear factual, although they are unreal.
I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna,
I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna,
who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode,
who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode,
which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world.
which is forever free from the illusory representation of the material
I
world.
meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth.
I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute
Dharma projita kaitravotcha,
Dharma Pujita Kaitavutta
paramo nirmatsaranam satam,
Paramo Nirmasaranam Satam
vedyam vastava matra vastu,
Vedyam Vastavam Astra Vastu
shivadam tapa trayon mulanam.
Shivadam Tapo Trayomlanam
Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite,
Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni
Kim va parir Ishwaraha,
Kimva Paririshvara
Sadyo Hridi Avarudyatatra,
Sadyo Rudya Varidyatitra
Krite Behi Sususubhistakshana.
Kriti Vihi Shushu Vistatkanat.
Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated.
Completely rejecting all religious activities which are material
This
motivated.
Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth,
This Bhagavad Purana propounds the highest
which
truth,
is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart.
which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in
The
the
highest
heart.
truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all.
The highest truth, the reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all.
Such truth uproots the threefold miseries.
Such a truth uproots the threefold
This
miseries.
beautiful Bhagavatam compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity
This beautiful Bhagavatam compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity
is sufficient in itself for God realization.
is sufficient itself for God realization.
What is the need of any other scripture?
What's the need with the other
As
scriptures?
soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam,
As soon as one attentively, submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam,
by this culture of knowledge,
by this culture of
the
knowledge,
Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
the Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam,
Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam,
sukhamukad amrita dravya samyutam,
Shukamukhar mrita travasangitam,
pibata bhagavatam rasam alayam,
Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamanayam,
muhur ahoraska bhuvibhavakaha.
Mura Horasika Bhuvivava.
O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam,
O expert and thoughtful man, relish Srimad
the
Bhagavatam,
mature fruit of the desired true Vedic literatures.
the mature fruit of the desired truth, the Vedic
It emanated
literatures.
from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami.
It emanated from the lips of Shishukadeva.
Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful.
Therefore, this fruit has become even
Although
more
its
tasteful.
nectarian juice was already relishable for all,
Although its nectarian juice was always relishable for all,
including liberated souls.
including liberated souls.
Shinvatam Swakata Krishna,
Shrimvantam Swakata Krishna,
Punya Shravana Kirtana,
Punyashravana Kirtanam
Hiryantaksto hi bhadrani
Vidyantastu Hiya Bhadrani
Vidunati suhitsatam.
Vidunoti
To hear
Suritsatam.
about Krishna from Vedic
To
literatures,
hear about Krishna from the Vedic
or to
literature,
hear from him directly through the Bhagavad
or
Gita,
to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita,
is itself righteous activity.
is itself a righteous activity.
And for one who hears about Krishna,
And for one who hears about Krishna,
Lord Krishna, who is dwelling in everyone's heart,
Lord Krishna is dwelling within everyone's heart,
acts as a best wishing friend,
acts as the best wishing
and
friend,
purifies the devotee who constantly engaged in hearing of him.
and purifies the devotees constantly engaged in hearing from him.
Nasta prayesu bhadresu
Nasta Praishwa Bharishu
nityam bhagavata sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Seva
bhagavati uttamasloke
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke
bhakti bhavati naistaki.
Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki.
In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge.
In this way, the devotee naturally develop his dormant transcendental
As he hears more
knowledge.
about Krishna from the Bhagavatam
As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam
and from the devotees,
and from the devotees,
he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord.
he becomes fixed in devotional service of the Lord.
Tadarajastamo bhava
Tadarajastamo bhava
kamalobhadayaschaye
Kamalobhadayaschaye
cheta itaranabhidam stitam
Chaitaiteranabhidam
sattve prasaditi.
Stitam Sattve Prasidati.
By development of devotional
By
service,
development of devotional service,
one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance,
one becomes freed from the modes of passion of
and
ignorance,
thus material lusts and avarice are diminished.
and thus material lust and avarice are diminished.
Evam prasanna manaso
Evam Prasanamanaso
Bhagavad Bhakti Yogataha
Bhagavad Bhakti Yogata
Bhagavad Tattva Vijnanam
Bhagavad Tattva
Mukta
Vijnana
Sangasya Jayate.
Mukta Sangha Sajaya.
When these impurities are wiped away,
When these impurities are wiped
the
away,
candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness,
the candidate remains steady in his position of pure
becomes
goodness,
enlivened by devotional service,
becomes enlivened by devotional service,
and understands the science of God perfectly.
and understands the science of God perfectly.
Vidyate Hridaya Grantis
Vidyate Hridaya Grantis
Chidyante Sarvasamsaya
Chidyante Samshaya
Siyante Jasya Karmani
Chiyante Chasakarmani
Krishna Evat Manishware.
Druta Evadmanishwari.
Thus Bhakti Yoga severs the hard knot of material affection
Thus the Bhakti Yoga serves the heart of the material
and
affection,
enables one to come at once to the stage of a samsayam samagram,
and enables us to come at once to the stage of a samsham samam
understanding
samam,
of the Supreme Absolute Truth Personality Godhead.
understanding the supreme absolute true personality of God.
Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness
Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotees Krishna consciousness
can one understand the science of Krishna.
can one understand the science of Krishna.
Shri Guru Vastika. The spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy.
Spiritual master is receiving the benediction of the ocean of mercy.
Just as a cloud pours water on a forest fire to extinguish it, so the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence.
By extinguishing the blazing fire.
I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master, who is an ocean of auspicious qualities,
Which is the ocean,
chanting the holy name, dancing in ecstasy,
chanting the holy name, dancing in ecstasy,
singing and playing musical instruments.
singing and playing the musical
The
instruments.
spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
The spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Because he's relishing the mellows of pure devotion within his heart.
Because he's relishing the mellows of pure devotion within his heart.
Sometimes his hair stands on end.
Sometimes his body
He feels quivering in his body,
is quivering in his
and
body.
tears flow from his eyes like waves.
Tears flow from his eyes like waves.
I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master.
I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual
The
master.
spiritual master is always engaged in the temple worship of Shri Radha and Krishna.
The spiritual master is always engaged in the temple worship of Shri Radha and
He
Krishna.
also engages his disciples in such worship.
He also engages his disciples in such worship.
They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments,
They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments,
clean their temple,
clean the
and
temple,
perform other similar worship of the Lord.
and perform other similar worship of
I
the
offer
Lord.
my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual
I
master.
offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such
The
a
spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food.
Spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of food.
Analyzes that which is licked, chewed, sucked, and drunk. When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavat Prasada,
When the spiritual master is satisfied with Bhagavad Prasad,
he is satisfied.
he is satisfied.
I, for my respectful basis, of the lotus feet of such a spiritual master.
From my respectful obeisance, the lotus feet of such a spiritual master.
Srimad Bhagvatam, Canto 2, Chapter 4, Verse number 8. Nunam Bhagavato Brahman
Nunam Bhagavato Brahman
Harir Adbhuta Karmana Durvibhavyam Iva Bhati
Duvido Vyam Ivavati
Kavibis Chapi Chestitam.
Gavivichapivechtitam.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. O learned Brahmana, the transcendental activities of the Lord are all wonderful, and they appear inconceivable because even great endeavors by many learned scholars have still proved insufficient for understanding them. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The acts of the Supreme Lord in the creation of just this one universe appear inconceivably wonderful, and there are innumerable universes, and all of them aggregated together are known as the created material world, and this part of His creation is only a fractional portion of the complete creation. The material world stands as a part only. Ekam stena stito jagat. Supposing that the material world is a display of one part of His energy, the remaining three parts consist of the Vaikuntha Jagat, or the spiritual world described in the Bhagavad Gita as Madhama, or Sanatan Dharma, or the eternal world. We have marked in the previous verse that He creates and again winds up the creation. This action is applicable only in the material world because the other, greater part of the creation, namely the Vaikuntha world, is neither created nor annihilated. Otherwise, the Vaikuntha Dhamma would not have been called eternal. The Lord exists with Dhamma, His eternal name, quality, pastimes, entourage, and personality are all a display of His different energies and expansions. The Lord is called Anadi, or having no creator, and Adi, or the origin of all. We think in our own imperfect way that the Lord is also created, but the Vedanta informs us that He is not created. Rather, everything else is created by Him. Narayana Parovyaktat. Therefore, for the common man, these are all very wonderful matters for consideration. Even for great scholars, they are inconceivable, and thus such scholars present theories contradictory to one another. Even for the insignificant part of His creation, this particular universe, they have no complete information as to how far this limited space extends, nor how many stars and planets are there, or the different conditions of those innumerable planets. Modern scientists have insufficient knowledge of all this. Some of them assert that there are 100 million planets scattered all over space. In a new release from Moscow, dated 2/21/60 or 1960, the following piece of knowledge was relayed. Russia's well-known professor of astronomy, Boris Vorontsov-Velyaminov, said that there must be an infinite number of planets in the universe inhabited by beings endowed with reason. It could be that life similar to that on Earth flourishes on such planets. Doctor of Chemistry Nikolai Zirov, covering the problem of atmosphere on other planets, pointed out that the organism of a Martian, for instance, could very well adapt itself to normal existence with a low body temperature. He said that he felt that the gaseous composition of Martian atmosphere was quite suitable to sustain life of beings which have become adapted to it. This adaptability of an organism to different varieties of planets is described in the Brahma Samhita as Vibhuti Binam. That is, each and every one of the innumerable planets within the universe is endowed with a particular type of atmosphere, and the living beings there are more perfectly advanced in science and psychology because of a better atmosphere. Vibhuti means specific powers, and Binam means variegated. Scientists who are attempting to explore outer space are trying to reach other planets by mechanical arrangements must know for certain that organisms adapted to the atmosphere of Earth cannot exist in the atmospheres of other planets. Easy journey to other planets. One has to prepare himself, therefore, to be transferred to a different planet after being relieved of the present body, as it is said in the Bhagavad Gita 9.25, Yanti Deva Rata Devan Pritin Yanti Pritirata Bhutani Yanti Bhuteja Yanti Madhya Jina Pivam. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. And those who worship me will live with me. Bhagavad Gita 9.25. Maharaj Parikshit's statement regarding the workings of the creative energy of the Lord discloses that he knew everything of the process of creation. Why then did he ask Sukadeva Goswami for such information? Maharaja Parikshit, being a great emperor, a descendant of the Pandavas, and a great devotee of Lord Krishna, was quite able to know considerably about the creation of the world. But that much knowledge was not sufficient. He said, therefore, that even greatly learned scholars failed to know about that, even after great effort. The Lord is unlimited, and his activities are also unfathomed. With a limited source of knowledge and with imperfect senses, any living being up to the standard of Brahmaji, the highest perfect living being within the universe, can never imagine knowing about the unlimited. We can know something of the unlimited when it is explained by the We can know something of the unlimited when it is explained by the unlimited, as has been done by the Lord himself in the unique statements of the Bhagavad Gita. And it can also be known to some extent from realized souls like Sukadeva Goswami, who learned it from Vyasadeva, a disciple of Narada. And thus the perfect knowledge can descend by the chain of disciplic succession only, and not by any form of experimental knowledge, old or modern. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. O learned Brahmana, the transcendental activities of the Lord are all wonderful, and they appear inconceivable because even great endeavors by many learned scholars have still proved insufficient for understanding them. So this is a very profound purport again by Srila Prabhupada. And the important point here is that anything about Krishna is amazing and inconceivable to mundane persons. Therefore, the most mundane people are the scientists and the philosophers, because they try and understand the material world through speculation. But they claim to be logical and rational, but actually they're not. They are actually stupid. And unfortunately, they're being accepted as experts in the matter of understanding the material world. But their understanding of the material world is very piecemeal, very sketchy, and very incomplete. So there's a very interesting point that Prabhupada makes in a lecture in Los Angeles, December 6, 1968, on the Bhagavad Gita verse, second chapter, verse number 26, and he says about Darwin's theory. Darwin and people that believe in Darwinism do not believe in the soul, and they don't believe in the transmigration of the soul. They have their own theories, but their theories are theories. They're not definite. They're not scientifically proven theories. They're just theories. And even their theories are not definite. They're not clear. They're constantly evolving and changing. So Darwin says always, perhaps it may be like this, perhaps it may be like that. And we've gone over this before in the Life Comes from Life booklet. Darwin was quoted as saying that speculation There's nothing wrong with speculation in science. But yet, there's plenty wrong with it, because it's not science. It's speculation. There's a difference between speculation and a difference between science. Science means that there's observation and experimentation, and then there is finding a pattern through all the observation and experimentation, and then coming up with a theory. Well, the atheistic theory is that by a combination of matter, the living symptoms become possible. This is a complete nonsense point. There's no proof of it. And it's not scientific. Science means observation, experimentation, and then coming up with a plausible theory. But they've never been able to experiment that by combining material elements, you can produce a living being. And Prabhupada challenges them. He says that let them make one ant. We're not asking them to make a human being. Let them make one small ant. He says they cannot even make one small ant, but yet they claim to have a theory that the life symptoms are produced by combination of matter. It's just complete nonsense. There's no validity to it at all, but yet they have convinced many generations of kids educated in their nonsense schools that such a theory is viable. But they've never shown any experiment to show that by combining material elements, they come up with a living being or living symptoms. So therefore, there's no way that we can accept such phony knowledge. But yet, we still are being duped by it every day. So, even from the point of view of history, at the most, they have gone back 3,000, maybe 4,000 years. That's it. They don't know anything beyond that. In fact, Darwin said that mankind only started 10,000 years ago. This is another complete speculation, no proof of it at all. And but if you read the Bhagavatam, you'll see that 5,000 years ago there was a battle at Kurukshetra in which over 600 million people were killed. And millions of years before that, 1.78 million of years before, there was the battle between Ravana and Rama, in which, again, 33 million Rakshasas were killed. So they have no understanding of history. You have to read Srimad Bhagvatam to understand history and origins of things, like different species and different races of people. So therefore, this chemical theory of life, that is, people can analyze the chemistry in the body. They know a lot about it. But can they produce it? They have all the elements, just like once Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj, he was asked by Prabhupada, who heard that a very famous chemical scientist was coming to University of California in Southern California. So Prabhupada asked Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj, ask him if we give him all the chemicals, can he produce a living being? So after the man gave his lecture, he asked for questions, and Bhakti Swarup Damodar asked this question. He said, sir, you say that life symptoms are produced from chemical combination. And obviously we know what all the chemicals are. There's sodium bicarbonate, and there's this thing, calcium, that thing. He said, if I give you all the chemicals, can you produce a living being? And the PhD famous scientist said, no. So Prabhupada said, see, he cannot do it, but yet he's teaching this theory that this is the way life has come about. The whole thing is nonsense. So in the same way, Krishna in the 2nd chapter, 26th verse of Bhagavad Gita, he tells Arjuna, he said, even if we accept that life comes from chemicals, still, if there's a bottle of chemicals and by accident it's broken, are you going to lament and give up your duty in life? That was his point. He said, well, even if you don't accept that the soul is eternal and that the body is just made of chemicals, do you lament and give up your duty as a kshatriya when a bottle of chemicals is broken? No. You can buy another bottle full of chemicals. There's no reason to give up your duty and stop fighting. Back even 5,000 years ago, the idea that the living symptoms are produced by a combination of chemicals was there. It was called the Vaisheshika theory, or school of philosophy. It was a nonsense philosophy then, it's still nonsense today. It's called, Vaibhasika philosophy. So, therefore, we see that we are being duped, we're being fooled by modern education, and our children are being trained in modern education. So therefore, they're going to become stupid, just like the scientists and the philosophers, by learning that nonsense. So therefore, in the Srimad Bhagvatam says, Parabhavas tavad abodha jato, as long as one does not inquire about the spiritual values of life, one is defeated and subjected to miseries arising from ignorance. Be it sinful or pious, karma has its resultant actions. If a person is engaged in any kind of karma, his mind is called karmatmaka, colored with fruit of activity. As long as the mind is impure, consciousness is unclear, and as long as one is absorbed in fruit of activity, he has to accept a material body. This is a verse, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 5th chapter, 5th verse. A very profound verse. So, Prabhupada explains, generally people think that they should act piously in order to be relieved from misery. This is another false theory. It's not true. And Prabhupada explains, he says that this is not a fact. Even though one engages in pious activity and speculation, nonetheless, he's defeated in life. His only aim should be freedom from the clutches of Maya and all material activities. So, we have many people who say, well, I don't believe in organized religion. I believe in not doing any harm to anyone. And they have this very smug and very limited philosophy of life. They try and do good to others, right? Actually, they don't really do good to others because they eat meat, because they engage in illicit sex, and they gamble, and they take intoxication. So how can they do good to others? They're full of sinful activities. They commit the panchasunas, the 5 types of unwitting sinful activities, day and night. They're committing sins all the time, the good people and the bad people. And they're all being defeated by birth, death, old age, and disease. And even the good people, they may be elevated to the higher material planets, but there's still birth, death, old age, and disease in the higher planets. And their goal there is not to love Krishna. Their goal there is to have enhanced sense gratification. So they're in the Ferris wheel syndrome, going up and down in the material world, sometimes being a demon, sometimes being a demigod. So this speculative knowledge and pious activity don't solve the problems of material life. One should be very inquisitive to understand what is our spiritual condition or position. Yatayadam si samitva nir basmasat kuru arjanam janagni sarvakarmani basmasat kurute tata. It's a very important verse, also 2nd chapter, Bhagavad Gita, verse number 4th chapter, Bhagavad Gita, verse 37, where it says, as a blazing fire turns firewood to ashes, So, O Arjuna, so does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes all reactions to material activities. So, unless we are trained in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, we'll be stupid our whole life, even if we're pious. And we'll take birth again, even if it's in a higher planet, still subject to birth, death, old age, and disease. Because pious activity or sinful activity both have reactions, karmic reactions. The pious activities will lead to being born again to receive the benefit of those pious activities. And the sinful activities means that you'll be punished terribly in the hellish planets and going down, as we heard yesterday. If one does not attain Krishna consciousness and pure love of Krishna in this lifetime and go back to Godhead, when they die, due to many sinful acts that they've committed, unwittingly or wittingly, they have to start all over in the process of birth and death. Starting from, they have to go through again 8,400,000 species to come back to a civilized human form where they have a chance to become Krishna conscious again. That's how dangerous the laws of karma are. And that's how dangerous it is to be in this world in a material body and to not become Krishna conscious if you're endowed with human intelligence. Therefore, it says, unless one understands the self and its activities, one has to be considered in material bondage. In Srimad Bhagavatam 10.2.32, it is said, Yene Ravindaksha Vimukta Marinas Tvai Astabhavid Avisuddha Buddhaya. A person who doesn't have knowledge or of devotional service may think himself liberated, but actually he's not. So this is the situation of the Mayavadis. They think themselves liberated because they've achieved the Brahman realization. But Brahman is already a fallen position. Why? Because there's no devotional service in Brahman. So therefore, the Mayavadis, even if they go through this very difficult process of meditating on something that's imperceptible, you try it sometime, you'll see it's almost impossible. But even if they succeed, they will fall down because there's no devotional service. There's devotional service in the material world, there's devotional service in the spiritual world, but there's no devotional service in the Brahma Jyoti. So it's worse than hell. That's why it's described as Naraka. It's worse than hell. Because even in hell, it's possible to become Krishna conscious. But it's not possible in the Brahma Jyoti. It's already a fallen position, although it's eternal. So, but it's just like getting into a rocket ship. Let's say you get into the SpaceX, Elon Musk's universe exploration rocket. They're already signing up people to go in a rocket into about 400 miles into space. So even if you get free of the Earth's atmosphere, but you miss going to a planet like the Moon or the Mars, and you miss it by some miscalculation, and you go out into empty space, you'll die. So that's what happens to the Mayavadis. They don't believe Vaikuntha exists. They don't believe Goloka exists. They don't believe Krishna exists. They don't believe there's Nanda Maharaj, Yasoda Maya, and the cows. And therefore, they will have to take birth again. They will fall down from the Brahman effulgence because they don't take any shelter on any Vaikuntha planet. They don't believe there's Vaikuntha planets, you see. So they're limited by their ignorance, even though they may seem to be elevated spiritually. So, unless one understands the self and its activities, one is considered to be in material bondage. Because a person who understands who they are in relationship to Krishna will realize that the goal of all spiritual knowledge is devotional service. If you have spiritual knowledge but no devotional service, you don't have spiritual knowledge. Yeah, you studied it, you passed the test, you got your Bhakti Vaibhava or Bhakti Vedanta, but you're not engaged in practical devotional service, it's zero. It's just waste of time. It's a waste of time and energy. Shrama eva hi kevalam. So therefore, even if you have no knowledge, but you engage in devotional service, you are advanced. You will make progress. Even if you can't recite one verse of Bhagavad Gita, but you're convinced that your life should be dedicated to Krishna's service, then you will advance spiritually. And if you have the determination to be always engaged in devotional service and knowledge, well, that's the best. And Krishna says that in the Bhagavad Gita. He says in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he says, let me just find that verse. He says, Tesam jnani nityayukta ekabhaktir vasishyate jnani priyo hi jnanino artam aham sacha mama priya. Of these, that means the 4 types of people that come to devotional service, the one who is in full knowledge and who is always engaged in pure devotional service is the best. For I am very dear to him, and he is dear to me. Udara sarv evaite jnani tvatmai vame matam astita sahi yuktatma mam evan utamam gatim. All these devotees, in other words, the 4 types of people that come to Krishna consciousness, even though they come with material desires, are undoubtedly magnanimous souls, but he who is situated in knowledge of me, I consider to be just like my own self. Being engaged in my transcendental service, he is sure to attain me, the highest and most perfect goal. So, even if you have no knowledge, but you're convinced to engage in devotional service, you make spiritual progress. But if you have knowledge and you're engaged in devotional service, that is the best. So therefore, how do you get knowledge? You don't get knowledge by getting a PhD in mundane university. You get knowledge by sitting down every morning and hearing Srimad Bhagvatam and Bhagavad Gita. That's the way you get knowledge, according to the Vedic system. Because all knowledge is contained in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. But if you engage in speculative knowledge like the scientists, you'll become more dumb, more stupid. You're not getting educated. You're being programmed to fail as a human being. And you'll have to start all over again from the lowest amoeba all the way back to human form of life through 8,400,000 species. What a waste of time and energy that is. And you know how many years it takes to go through 8,400,000 species? Millions and millions of years. So therefore, we shouldn't waste one moment. We should be enthusiastic to come and hear the class. We should be enthusiastic to be engaged in devotional service. And we should be very enthusiastic to give up illicit activities, meat eating, gambling, illicit sex, and speculation. Okay, so therefore it says, a person who doesn't have knowledge of devotional service may think himself liberated, but actually he is not. Arura krichena padam tata pantanti adyo nadrita yusmad angraya. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.2.32. Such people approach the impersonal Brahman effulgence, but they fall down again into material enjoyment because they have no knowledge of devotional service. As long as one is interested in karma and jnana, he continues enduring miseries of material life, birth, old age, disease, and death. See, that's the whole point. People think the karma yogis think they have the best. The jnana yogis think they have the best. The mystic yogis think they have the best. But they're all impediments to going back to Godhead. Karma, jnana, and yoga. They're all impediments. If there's no devotional service, they're a waste of time. But yet people spend lifetimes practicing those things, thinking they're making spiritual advancement. Look at Durvasa Muni. He was, in a sense, a perfect mystic yogi, but he was not a genuine devotee. Therefore, he was not able to kill Ambarish Maharaj, even though he had all these powers. And even though he was able to run away from the Sudarshan Chakra and go even to Vaikuntha planet and talk to Lord Vishnu, but yet he was not able to get any help from Brahma, from Shiva, or from Lord Vishnu. He had to go back again and ask for forgiveness from Ambarish Maharaj, who was not a perfect yogi. He was not a jnani. He was not a karma yogi. He was not a mystic yogi. He was a devotee. So the devotee, someone like Durvasa Muni, who has perfected all the siddhis. See? So therefore, unless we come to the conclusion, Bahonam Janmanamante Gyanavam Prabhadyante Vasudeva Samamiti, Krishna, you are everything for me. Samahatma Sudurlabhaha. Such a Mahatma, or a great personality, is very rare. And we've discussed that also, that even though one may be elevated through yoga or jnana, etc., it's nothing compared to the pure devotee, like Ambarish Maharaj, like Prahlad Maharaj, like Dhruva Maharaj. They have become pure devotees by devotional service, not by jnana or karma or yoga. By the way, there's no history that shows that Arjuna ever did any yoga asana, but yet he's considered the greatest yogi. And he never did any yoga asana. That means all these modern schools of yoga, they're all nonsense. They're all a waste of time. Because they're not yoga. Yoga has nothing to do with gymnastics. It has to do with connecting to Krishna through devotion. Okay, so therefore, this is an important verse today and purport, and you can learn a lot from this purport by about Krishna and how he is unique. No one is equal to him or greater than him. So we'll stop right there. And are there any questions? Okay, no questions, no answers. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.